All right, today, guys, I want to talk about working fresh storms. In the roofing industry, you're going to come to love fresh storms. But before we get into that, I want to cement a few things in your brain. First off, it's not the world isn't always fresh storms. I mean, we're not going to have those every day. That's why I train you. I set your expectations around uh, being able to work a style that's going to make you six figures year round. Guys, if you go out and do the things that I tell you and you do them day in and day out, you're going to make $100,000. I don't care if a storm hits or not. You're going to make $100,000 if you do the things that we talk about. Now, what happens, I want to talk about how storms ruin great salespeople before we get into this. So what happens to a lot of good sales guys, right now, you're thinking that life, you get into this, you start getting into the kind of the daily grind of roofing, and this seems like a pretty good opportunity, right? If you as you start getting better, you get to the point that I knock 20, 10, whatever, how many doors you need to knock. I knock this many doors. I get one contract. I get one contract a day. I'm going to make six figures. That's a good life, right? I think all of us are. I mean, we're all here because we kind of agree with that. Storms can ruin you as a salesperson. And what do I mean by that? Well, when a storm hits, life is going to get incredibly easy, right? Nobody fails in a storm. Nobody, no roofer fails in the middle of a storm, okay? You're going to have the opportunity in a fresh storm to make more money in the course of 1 month than most people do in their entire, in an entire year. Like if you go out and work a storm correctly, you could easily earn $50,000 worth of commissions in a single month, depending on how you work the storm. It's entirely up to you. It's completely possible. It's entirely reasonable. I know a lot of people who do it. The storm hits, they go out and they put $500,000 worth of contracts on the job in a single month, and then the next month they're just watching jobs go on and collecting checks, and life's great for them. But what you need to understand is we are training you to have a career. That means when the storm's over, when that whirlwind's over, you have these tools to fall back on. And so I want you to kind of think about the way things are working right now. Like right now, we are probably sending you into neighborhoods that veterans would say are tapped out, right? These are neighborhoods that we've probably been through 4, 5, 6, 10 times maybe. Knock the doors, talk with people, and now we send the rookies in, and you guys still go in, bunch of ignorant greenhorns. You don't know that it's tapped out, and next thing you know, you guys come out with a contract. Your ignorance is making you money. I hope that that's not an insult. It's just because you're new, you're not telling yourself it's tapped out. You don't have that head trash saying there's nothing left in this neighborhood. You go in, you find someone ready to go, and you sign them up. I mean, if at this point you've probably all done that. What happens to good sales guys is you start developing these habits and you start going out and you do this work and you knock 20, 30, 40 doors, get one contract. At the end of the day, that's a good payoff, right? I mean, that's a solid payoff. When a storm hits, what happens is you get out of practice, okay? When a storm hits, you'll probably get 4 or 5 leads a day. I mean, you will legitimately end up in situations where you have more leads coming through than you can chase down in a single day. And it's probably starting to excite you. It's probably making you go out, you sign people up, and you make a lot of money. You're going to be probably in the point where you are turning people away. People are going to call you. People are going to call you up. You're going to look at where it is, and you're going to say, you know what? That's probably a $6,000 roof. It's outside of the storm zone. It's not worth my time. I'm staying here making big money. Like that's got to sound exciting for us right now while we're knocking doors. What you need to understand is this skill set that you're learning right now, the knocking doors, the putting in signs, the asking for referrals. These habits that you're developing now, that's the difference between making a career out of this and having a few good months after a storm, okay? If you treat knocking doors, asking for referrals, putting signs in yards as something that you do every day, something that you can fall back on, you're going to have a 20, 30, 40-year career where you make six figures every year and set your schedule. If you don't treat these as things to fall back on, what happens is, and I've watched this happen a lot of times, you get complacent, right? You have 3 or 4 weeks of so many leads coming in that you don't have to knock a door. And like legitimately in a fresh storm environment, you could spend 3 months not knocking a door and easily exceeding quota every month, making a ton of money, right? What happens is after, the question in this industry, the question about who is going to last is who are the people that go back to basics after the storm's over, right? We're all going to make money in the middle of the storm. In the middle of the storm, we're all making money. We're throwing money in the air. We're dancing. We're excited, right? Everyone's got plenty of money. And then we have to go back to work, right? Party's over. It's kind of just like you're doing today. We go back to just day to day, grind it out. 2 hours of knocking doors, always putting signs in, always asking for referrals, always doing those things. So, guys, I want you to kind of keep in mind what you're doing right now. So you're right now you're at the point where all you're doing is knocking doors, you're canvassing, signing contracts. As you start getting better, the amount of time you spend canvassing is going to go down, but you're still going to have a pattern of canvas, sign contracts, work my files. These good habits that you've got, you've got to be ready to fall back on them, guys. Like that's the mental. I had a great storm hit Carmel, Indiana in 2017, and one of my sales guys was fairly new, and he was just absolutely crushing it. I mean, he was going out and he was making great money before the storm. The storm hits, the money gets even better. 2 months later, he comes and tells me that there's no contracts left. Everybody's been touched, everybody's been hit. Competitors have been knocking doors all over the place, and I'm like, Trent, like without this storm, you're making plenty of money all over the city. Now there's a storm. There's fresh damage in Carmel, and now you can't make money. He goes out, knocks one door, gets a contract. Comes back and tells me about it. The point is, guys, like you need to keep your expectations at a bare minimum. I know that if I go out, my job is to go out and knock 25, 30, 40 doors a day, whatever it is that you need to get to. You should know your numbers. At a bare minimum, I'm always going to go out and hit my minimums. I'm going to have my good habits, and I'm always going to make money. In a fresh storm, I'm going to make more money. And then when that's over, I'm going to fall back on my these habits, and I'm going to keep making money. So remember what life is like right now, okay? Remember what life is like prior to the storm. You had the ability to go out and make a good living. You have the ability to go out and work. Is it a grind? Is it yes. Is it as exciting and lucrative as in a fresh storm? No, it's not, but it's still a good job. It's still the ability to make money. So these habits, you've just got to remember, these habits that you're developing right now, you've got to keep them, and you've got to fall back on them after the storm. Because what happens is if you get spoiled, if you get complacent, if you get to the point where, I've gone into this storm area, and basically the moment I drive my truck into a neighborhood, people are flagging me down, asking me if I can come inspect a roof. Then when it's time to go back and knock doors, I have to remember, knocking doors works, guys. Like you're currently signing contracts. You're currently making money through knocking doors. You're going to be making money through asking for referrals. This system, the system that you're learning, works regardless of whether there's a storm. Okay, I really want you to see right now. Early in your career, you're starting to see it. I mean, I hope you're seeing some success. I hope you're seeing this already. It worked before the storm. There's going to be a storm where you don't have to do nearly as much work to get contracts. Life's going to be amazing. Life's going to be incredible. But you have to remember, when the storm's over, we've got a job to come back to. These are the habits you're going to fall back on. This is what we're going to do. There's going to be a storm. We're going to count our money. We're going to be excited. We're going to come back to it. The other thing is, guys, At the end of the day, my goal is for everyone to get to $1 million. If you get to $1 million in revenue, I'm excited, right? If that's $1 million by June, and you're like, hey Dustin, I've got $1 million in sales. I think I'm gonna take off for the rest of the year. Perfect. That's fine. Come back in January. Let's make some money. As long as you are managing your money correctly and you're not asking me for money, that's fine. Go out, do $1 million in sales, call it a year, come back in 6 months, spend 6 months on vacation. I don't care. Spend the next 6 months making another $100,000. It's up to you, whatever you want to do. You have the freedom to do this in any way you want. Our goal is to get you to the point you're constantly bringing in $1 million in revenue every year. And storms are a great way to make sure that you are. Storms are a great way to do that quickly, right? So take it. What we're going to talk about is taking advantage of storms, how to make the most of storms, how to use storms to make the most money. But the biggest thing that I want you to remember is right now, you have the habits, you have the ability, you have the skill set. All the things that you are learning now will make you $100,000 a year, regardless of whether a storm hits. Hopefully at this point you're seeing it. It's going to start. You've had a little success so far. There's going to be more success as you start getting referrals. But regardless of whether a storm hits tomorrow, 6 months from now, the habits that you're setting up right now are things that you can fall back on when the storm's over. And I want you to remember this. I want you to remember that right now I can go out and I'm on the path. I'm building the skill set to get to the point that I can easily do 5 contracts a week. I just have to fall back on it. So don't let a storm spoil you. I want you guys to make a career out of this. I want this to be a long-term investment. I don't want this to be a situation where you learn this skill set, a storm hits, you make a much money, and then flare out, because guys, it happens all the time. So